Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. The entire Shas outside of a few little Masechtas in Kachim. Even that's debatable. Might even be more least learned than even those Masechtas. Especially that Nazir. There's no din of Nazir in Chutz La'aretz. If you become a Nazir Chutz La'aretz, you have to go to Yisrael, and as we'll see later in the Gemara. And today, if you become a Nazir, you're a Nazir Oilam, you can never get out of it because there's no Kabbanis. I guess unless you're Matan Neder. And we don't even know who the Mefarshim are. The Rashi, definitely parts of Rashi is not Rashi. So we know that's all mixed up. And you can see from the language. Taisus is a whole different style over here. Taisus decided not to do any pupil, just Pirish. The Rush was a Paisik. But like in the Durim, decided over here to do a Pirish, just that it's shorter. So it makes it, and plus the different girsais. And that's why there's so many girsais, because it wasn't learned that well over the years that they've worked out exactly what the correct versions are. So therefore it makes Nazir quite a complex Masechta. It's all the way around. The more that something is learned, the better it is. So Nazir is considered the most complicated Masechta in Shas for that very reason. In fact, when we say Oni, even though we say the Nun is Nida, others say it's Nazir. Why? Because no one learned it. And because no one learned it, and we don't know who the Rishonim are, and the styles are different, and so on. So we are up to the Gimel Amud Aleph, and we're trying to work our way through, because the beginning of the Masechta is really a repeat of Masechta Nedarim, and where we talk about the three different categories. We talk about the Iker Neder or the Iker Nazir, and then we talk about the Kinuyim. We use words, specific words that don't really mean anything, but we assign it to Nazir, or like Rish Lakish said, these are words that are made up. That are made up by the Chachamim. Well, Rabbi Yochanan said these are just other languages, including these words here. And the chiddush of these words here is even if you don't understand what you're saying, you're still chayiv to be a Nazir, which that in itself is a big debate in halacha. And then different ideas that if you say that, we think that what you mean is you mean Nazir. And generally we are saying you also look at the circumstances. A Nazir happened to be walking by, and therefore when you made this particular comment, you're referring to that. Otherwise, what triggered it? Okay, so we're up to the Gemara here in the Gimel Amud Aleph. Hareini Kazeh. If you say that, and the last thing we learned in the Gemara is when you say, I want to beautify myself, you are holding on to your hair. Otherwise, maybe it means you want to is no lefan b'mitzvah. I want to do here the mitzvah. So we say, no, the hair gives it away. Says the Gemara, when you say hareini kazeh, even if you're holding on to your hair, why does that necessarily mean that you want to become a nazir? He not made the top of the side, holding on to hair. Hareini kazeh, he didn't really say anything. What does it mean? You be like this. Why does that even mean nazir? Shmuel said, you're right. Here, kigoyin shayin nazir oivel lefanav. There was a nazir passing by in front of you again. So again, from the context, we can see what you meant was you want to become a nazir. Now the problem by nazir more than anything else is we learn a kiyafli. The expression we use is kiyafli. And Tarfon says that you're not a nazir unless you clearly spell out what you mean. It's more than usual. So therefore, it has to be more conclusive or more compelling. This is what you meant. Okay. When you said Harei Misalso, which is like parting your hair. My Dahadin Soul Society. Oh, you said a salsa. How does that mean? How do you want it means here? And then we're saying that it means another. How do you know? So we say, could only like Amsa, like this maid. Remember, we had Yudah Nasi's maid was a big Talmud Chachama. We learned a number of things from the way she spoke. Sorry. It's much more than that. She's the one who she realized that Rebbe had to pass away, so she's davened. So she was a very special woman, obviously, and she overrode all the chachamim there in the Nuksuvus. So she obviously is a very special place. Lahu gabra to this person ad mosai atum misalsel b'sarach. So when you misalsel in your hair, so that's how we knew what it meant. That says how do you know? Maybe it meant Torah. We find the expression silsel also when it comes to learning Torah. That when he said Hareini Misalsel, maybe it meant he's going to part the ways of the Torah and and gribble and work his way through it. But we find the expression that the Chsiv, it says the pasuk that Salsel Torah. It said that you work your way through Torah and it will elevate you. So we find the same word. Yeah, Rashi said that. Yeah, but that means here. Because he's holding on to, again, it's quite a strong indication that he was referring to something that's associated with hair rather than something that is learning Torah. And then the different words we use. Layer my hair. Again, I know meant hair. Kedetnan. Because we found in Gemara Shabbos, we learned about how much when you carry on Shabbos from Rosh Hashanah, there has to be a significant amount, an amount that you would use for whatever the end purpose is. And we learned over there when it comes to seed, when it comes to lime, enough lime that what you build up your hair and it's like the gel, whatever it is that keeps it in place. So we see that it's connected to kilkul is connected to hair. Rav said, what's kilkul bas tzida? The here on the side by the temples. Says the Gemara, maybe kilkul means mazen ani. Maybe he meant to say that I'm going to give tzedakah. I'm going to provide for the poor people. Like we said by Yosef. Yosef is aviv es echad. This is cool that Yosef he provided for his parents, for his father, and for his siblings. By in every single instance where the words are not clear, it's the circumstances of the world. But the words have to be able to be interpreted. That's what it means. Could we learn before? You still need peep. Liba is not enough. You need peep, especially by Nazir Kiyafli. So between the peep, a word that can mean 50%, 50 one way or another, and the circumstances together, it becomes compelling. Hadei your life, he uses the expression, I am taking upon myself the shalech peder hadei nazir. And we're translating I want that the shalech peder means let it here grow. So obviously he's talking about a nazir. That's what we learn right now. Says the Gemara, how do you know the hadish shaluach libuo? I know shaluach means to let grow, to grow. Because we actually have a pasuk where it says shlachayich pardes remainim, that I'm going to let the grow the orchard of pomegranates. So therefore, we find the word shalech means to grow. Says the Gemara, how do you know? Ema mididavuri shalech also means means that to relocate from one place to another. Kidachsiv, like it says, and maybe it meant was I'm going to remove the hair from my head. I'm taking it away from my head and put it somewhere else. In other words, the opposite of being a nazir. You take a haircut. Who said it means to grow? And how do you know that it can also mean to send across? It says in the pasuk, he sends the water away to spread out. So we see that can also mean something else, has another meaning. How do you know which way it is? And here, even if you're holding your hair, it doesn't help us, because you could be cutting your hair, it could be growing your hair. How do we know which one it is? Says the Gemara, this Tana holds a pera yal. If you learn out of that shaleach actually means to grow from the word pera. How do we know that? Because he said over here, he said the shaleach pera. So we're not going to, the accent is not on the word shaleach, the word is on pera. And pera means to grow your hair. How do I know that? You see here it says Kodesh Gadel Pera. Over here by a Nazir it says that he should let his hair grow, right? Pera Sarosh. By a Kohen Hedjed it says Upera Lo Yishalechu. That a Kohen Hedjed we learn out has to take a haircut every 30 days. A Kohen Gadol every 3 days. A king every day. So we see that the word Pera is referring to hair, and so therefore now they're talking about. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So just like over there, it means growing the hair by a kohen. Don't let it grow more than a certain time. So over here, when he says shalech pera, even though shalech itself can be interpreted two ways, but if you associate the word pera, it means growing. Or I can say that you asked the question. We found another pasuk that shalech means to spread. To send away, to transport somewhere else, and you use the pasuk shalech mayim al pnei chutzes. I can actually tell you the word shalech also does not mean to transfer somewhere else, but rather, high shalech might not maybe means that the water should actually increase, and if the water increases, it will go chutzah. Rabbi Yosef said, like Rabbi Yosef Metargim. Now we already had in Tosis and Baba Kama. It says Rabbi Yosef was blind, and therefore you can't say Torah himself. He would say Torah about that. He was always the Metargim. Rabbi Yosef, the kad mashkele maya that Rabbi Yosef used to give when the mashke so much, will pay a bit of you. Increase the water to the extent that it'll fill your fruit and it'll grow. So we see that shalech also can mean, even that pasuk can mean grow. I remember when we were in Shluchas to Caracas on his way, we had this Rosh Hashanah from New York. He came and he was saying that the shit in Lit always was that if you want to be Makar of Yidden, he says you fill up a barrel with wine and you fill it with so much wine that automatically it overflows and it will reach everywhere. So he was trying to tell us we should go back to 770 and learn over there. If we learn over there properly, the water, the wine will flow and get to Caracas, and somehow or another, it will become true. So that Rabbi said that the water should increase and it should spread everywhere. Setting mother. The next part of the mission is Hareya likes it. Here we had a machlekes Rameh and the Chachamim. The person said, "I'm taking upon myself pigeons." The two kabbalas, a set of pigeons. Why do you think it means a nazir? Rameh says it means a nazir. My time with Rameh. Why do you say a pair of pigeons means a nazir? But Shlaki says, interesting. There's a pasuk where you find Siparin Smuchin L'Siyah. There's a pasuk by Daniel where the word pigeons is written right next to the word here, and therefore it's like a remes. This person's giving a remes. When I say pigeons, I mean the pigeons which are written right next to the pasuk where it says here, and what's here? Nazir. Kibbutz of the Chsiv. Where do you find such a pasuk? It says by Daniel. It says over there. He says, it was ad the side that the hair is so long, conditioned like eagle, rubber, a groove, a tifroy, and its claws and its are like nails. So we find in that pasuk it says sare. It says over there sare. In the end it says ketipod. So therefore, tipod, which are birds, should be is next to hair. Very so. This guy's a big Talmud Chacham and he's playing games. What do you mean Nazir? Just say you be a Nazir. I want to be, pigeons, and he meant you have to know the pasuk in Tanakh and the pasuk Daniel and work it out. Yeah, that's what he says. Yeah, we'll see later. They asked him what he meant, but even so, you have to have a word. Meaning alone is not good enough. It has to have a word that lends itself to whatever you're thinking. And you're going to have to say that is a nazir walking by or he's holding on to his hair. Because even these two alone, association of pasuk is definitely not compelling. And we said before, by nazir has the key. You have to be clear. It has to be so somehow or another self-evident. So it must be you're holding on to your hair or a nazir is going by, and you're saying this pasuk, and you say this is what I meant. Okay. The Rabban who argued that they say it doesn't mean that at all. Rabban Sabri like mitzvahs inish b'midi the samach. People don't do that. You don't say a word that means something else because it's written in the same pasuk next to it. We don't believe that he meant to be nazir unless he would have been a bit clearer than that, a bit more explicit than that. Even if a nazir is walking by or holding on to it. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yechon says. So that's how Rabbi Rish Lakish explained the argument of Rabbeinu Chachamim that the word Tziporin is related or associated in the pasuk with you have the eagles, you have the pigeons, what do you call it, with hair. Rabbi Yechon says no, don't do that. Everyone agrees that people don't talk this way. It's not the way people normally talk. So what's the machlekes is there? A lot of times Amazed that the Chashin we say Shem Tziporin Nazir Tamei Kibul Olav. Now remember that you don't. A normal nazir does not bring tziparim. It's only if you became tamei in middle you bring this two tziparim, the chatas and the oila. So it may be, Rabbi says that we think that maybe he meant a nazir that will become tamei and he has to bring tziparim as a card, and that's what he meant. Maybe tziparim nazir kibul. That's what he's makabel on. Says the Gemara. Chashin doesn't mean we suspect like in a bad way. Chashin means that we interpret. That there's a likelihood that that's what he meant. A person that has to bring pigeons, which we'll say, let's say a nazir. Says the Gemara, if you're saying that you're not 100% convinced, you're just saying there's a likelihood, there's another likelihood. Maybe you can donate this. Maybe he was talking about donating a pair of pigeons. We didn't say anything about chatos and oil. We just said a pair of pigeons. He's donating a pair of pigeons. If so, how they like Cain the expression that people use when they want to donate a pair of pigeons, like we have by Yoledis, it was like, that's kinim. So you say Cain, like a nest. You don't use the word that he said, just support it. Says the Gemara, okay. It's okay, not the double. But maybe Dilma how they like to put in Mitzvah come out by a Mitzvah, you have two pigeons also, one you shech and one you don't. And the one you send off, but first you use that living one to sprinkle the blood on the other one, on the Mitzvah from the dead bird, and then you send it off. So that's two pigeons. So maybe that's what he meant. That he's taking upon himself the pigeons of Mitzvah. So the Gemara, no. The reason why there's a stronger likelihood he meant Nazir rather than meaning Mitzvah is there wasn't a Mitzvah walking by in front of him, then you're right, you probably mean Mitzvah. There's a Nazir walking by, it's a trigger. So no likelihood, what he meant was he wants to become like a Nazir. Says the yeah, would be yeah, true. Or he's taking on the kabbanas of this Mitzvah. He'll pay for those kabbanas. So like we said before, okay, that's by the donations. That's by donations. But Dilma Nazir Tomei okay, let's say you're right. Let's say there was a Nazir walking by. And talking about Nazir Tomei, and he doesn't know, but he thinks maybe the guy's a Nazir Tomei. And the two birds, he's talking about not that I'm going to become a Nazir, but I will take upon myself to pay off this guy's bird that we had yesterday. As Gemara says, you're going to show you Nazir Torah. The Nazir who happened to be walking by was a Nazir Torah. And therefore, another Torah doesn't bring pigeons at all. So it can't mean that I'm going to take upon myself this person's pigeons. There are no pigeons involved. So it must mean what he mean. He meant that I will be like him. I will become a Nazir who has a potential of becoming tummy. Says the Gemara. So my benayu. End of the day, what's the difference of Yechid Pshat and Shlok Pshat? The halacha l'maisa makes no difference whatsoever. You're telling me that a Nazir Torah has to walk by. Your Kodesh Lakish, you need a Nazir Torah walking by. Otherwise, we're not going to associate it to that pasuk in Daniel, where hair is right next to a bird. Right? It's only because a Nazir is walking by. You have to have a Nazir walking by. So at the end of the day, why have a machlekes when it makes no difference? Or does it?
Nazir Torah is not physical either. You have to ask it.
Yeah, exactly. Or you would also say that. Or you would say the vast majority of people are Nazir Torahs, so therefore he has a right to assume to make it Nazir Torah. Says he more further. Okay, what's the difference? Yeah. My benayu going to Omar. He said Tziporin. He said, Hasmuchim l'sarolai. He clearly spelled out that I'm taking the pigeons that are written next to here in that pasuk of Daniel. He referenced that pasuk of Daniel clearly. Is Rabbi Yochanan afagav, even though the Amar, even though remember Rabbi Yochanan said that people don't do that. So even though he referenced it clearly, okay, he referenced it clearly, but it'll only work if a Nazir was going by. According to the Shlukish, the only reason why you need another going by is because we have no idea he means the reference. But if he clearly said, I'm referencing that pasuk, then according to the Shlukish, that's it. I don't need another walking by. So here you have a nafkamina in halach l'maisa. Even though he said, I'm referencing that pasuk, only if another is walking by, then we'll say he meant the service. But if Shimon Lakish, even if another is not walking by, and nevertheless, the fact that he spelled out clearly, he's referring to that pasuk, he becomes another.
When he's called him
He's never read something.
It's not so often that they refer to this.
I know. Yeah.
Usually it's just a short.
He never gets. Yeah, very seldom he gets a full name. Shimon Malakish. It's Rajbal. It's still a very famous. I don't know. It's up to the printer. If you ask me. Exactly. I don't know. Don't know. So you're telling me that Rabbi Yochanan hold that people don't use associations. Let me ask you a question. Sorry. In both of those cases, is Reish is Rab Shimon. Reish Lakish is still right. So is there an opinion that are you telling me that people don't use this process of association ever? But Tanya, we learned if a person says he says my right hand, and then he says whatever he wants to say. It's considered a shvur. And if he wants to, he has to be mataned. Now, why in the world does right hand mean a shvur? It must be a pasuk somewhere. My time, a lam mishum nechsiv. We have a pasuk. It says in the pasuk over there, the Osan Daniel, where he says it. Vayarim yemino yismail. It says in the pasuk, he lifted his right hand and his left hand to Shemayim, to the Eibishter, vayishav and yisvor b'chayil. So we see that an association vayishava, and it says Yamin. So we see. Yeah, you're right. So if he says, but no, if a person said, you mean I'm not going to eat meat, that becomes a lush of a shua. How? Only because of that association. So everyone holds that we do this kind of association. People associate the word you mean with shua. Raise your right hand. Amri loy mishum min gufik yeshua. Says the Gemara, no. No. The word yamin itself, not because of an association, the word yamin itself is actually a word for another word for shua. The Tanya we learned in Abraisa. Benayin loimi means shehi b'shua. I never tell you the word yamin. That itself means shua, not because it's written next to the word shua. It is a shua. It says nishba Hashem b'yaminoi. It says in Chumash that you should swear to Hashem b'yaminoi. And then it says Vuzray Uzay. So because it says Nishba Hashem B'Yamina, this we get the raising the right hand. So therefore, right hand means, or that Lashon Yamin means Shua, not because of association Daniel put in the same pasuk. Umenaylam is Moshe Shua. How if you say left hand means Shua? So it says Uvuzray Uzay. That's the very same pasuk as Nishba Hashem B'Yamina Vuzray Uzay. Some of us say Vuzray Uzay talking about tefillin. Uzay tefillin. We see that what that these are words of Shavua, and that's what don't do with association. Okay, next Mishnah. Hareini Nazir. Now, a Nazir basically made up of three. They worked out that a Nazir has like 10 mitzvahs on Aveis. 2 mitzvahs, Asay, 8 in the loises. Plus, you have a general 2 of a neder. You have to keep your neder, you're not allowed to breach your neder. All four. So you have 12 Averis with a Nazir. So why somebody would take upon themselves to become a Nazir? That's why we're having more in the Nedarim. It's not a good idea ever to do Nedarim, especially Nazir. Unless in the story of Shimon. So the 3 parts, right? This is to do with grapes and wine. So grapes, the pips, the skin, the wine, anything that emanates from a grape, hair, and becoming tummy. So these are the 3 separate parts of a nazir, and that's important because not every nazir has these 3 chiyuv. Depends on nazir shimshon, nazir shmuel, nazir olam. So the Mishnah now we're going to have an issue machlekes of Shimon Chachamim. If a person spells out, "I'm going to be a nazir," of only you mentioned, let's say here, what happens then? Are you a full nazir or not? So everyone agrees. If you just say the word nazir, hareni nazir, you mean everything. The first Mishnah we had about Sarai, you didn't mean over there that I'm going to be a nazir only of that Issa. You were describing what is more descriptive. What am I planning to do? So someone has involved with here, but not that I'm limiting it there. So everyone agrees in those cases you're a full-fledged nazir. Here the argument is where you clearly spelled out, I'm going to be a nazir from wine. What happens then? Are you a nazir at all? You're a nazir from everything? What happens? So the Mishnah says, Hareini nazir min hachatzonim umin hazogim umin hataglachas. If you're a nazir, there's a big machlekes the Gemara will have later on. What does chatzonim mean? What does zogim mean? Which one is pip and which one is skin? It's a skin or a pip. We'll see more later. Umin hataglachas, and you say haircut. Sorry? Yeah, but not in this part, not in the context here. Umin hatumah. He's a nazir. He's a nazir. The whole diktuk in Nazir is Allah. I mean, that's quite obvious. It's in contrast to the next few missions where it talks about Shimshon, for example, where not all the din. There's no laws of tumah there, on the one hand. On the other hand, the chumrah by Shimshon, the hair is much stricter than you never take a haircut. So Mishnah spelling out, this is the standard nazir. And we mentioned all 3. So it sounds like from this Mishnah here, even though he says, I'm a nazir, it's supposed to be or. I'm a nazir from Chatzanim, or I'm a nazir from this, or from Tumah. He's a nazir, full-fledged nazir. Which means, and our Mishnah does not agree with Rab Shimon, who says that if you highlight only one of those things, you're not a nazir at all. Says the Gemara right away. Masnisin like Rab Shimon. Our Mishnah is not like Rab Shimon. The Tanya we learned, Rab Shimon says, Ein chayiv ad sheyazar mikulam. You're not chayiv until you become a nazir from all of them. If you only, according to him, if you only highlight one of them, and you're not a nazir at all. That's not kind of comes. No. Nazir Shimshon. If you say clearly, I would be like Shimshon was. I would be like Shmuel. I would be like Shalom or Nazir Olam, Nazir Olam. We'll see different kinds of this. The Rabbanan say, "Afilu loy nazir ela bechad min hain havi nazir." According to Chachamim, even if you only highlighted one of them, I'll be a nazir from grapes, I'll be a nazir from whatever, you become a nazir in every respect. Or within grapes itself, I'll be a nazir from the skins of grapes. You're a nazir, a complete nazir. Now, what's going on here? What's the crux of their argument? My time at Rab Shimon. Let's start with Rab Shimon. What's the logic of Rab Shimon? Why, if you only nominate one of the Yisurim, you're not a nazir? On Makra, he says, it's clearly in the Torah, it says that a person should be a nazir. And what's a nazir? Abstaining. Mekoil asheyasim megefen hayayin. Everything that is made from gefen hayayin. Mechatzonim va'adzog. That it says mekol asheyasa. From everything. In other words, when are you a nazir? Only if you included everything. The moment you're trying to limit it, if you're saying I'm a nazir from wine, you're not a nazir. Clear. The kol hashiyasa nu the rabbanon. So it's a question of the rabbanon. Why do they say that if you only spell out one of them, you become a nazir for everything? My time on makra, because right after that it says in the next pasuk, it says miyayin v'sheicha yas. It says clearly the pasuk that if you became a nazir from yayin, new wine, or sheicher, old wine, you're a nazir as well. Clearly the Torah separates one from the other two. And within that one doesn't say grapes or anything else, just the wine. The raya that even if you only highlight one of these Yisurim, you become a full-fledged nazir. No, it's a question of Shimon then. What does Shimon can do the pasuk meyayin v'sheicha yazir? Second one, Shimon nam yeksim meyayin v'sheicha yazir. Now the next three lines of Gemara is very controversial. Big machlekes is Rishonim. Ahu mebayle. So let's first learn Rashi's way. Ahu mebayle. You know what we need it for? Lesser yayin mitzvah yayin rishus. You know why I need yayin v'sheicha yazir? No, nothing to do with Kabbalah and Naziris. Accepting Naziris has to be everything. The kol hashiyas. This is talking about that what happens, you said you'll become a Nazir, but sometime during your Naziris, you have to drink wine because it's a mitzvah. What takes precedence? The mitzvah of the drinking the wine or the Naziris you just took upon yourself? We'll see in a minute. So that's the Chiddush of the Pasuk. The Pasuk is coming to inform you that you should know that Naziris will be aseh the yayin shel mitzvah. Yayin v'sheicha yazah, that even though that you have yayin shel mitzvah, Naziris, it falls on that as well. Now, where do we have a yayin mitzvah? It says the Gemara, lesser yayin mitzvah ki yayin rishus. So you want so now this is now like Rashi. What are you talking about? What's yayin mitzvah? Kiddush Avdalta. The only wine that we can think of that as a mitzvah is the wine from Kiddush and the wine from Avdallah. No, how do you move on Har Sinai? We discussed in the Durham where we made a shua, the three different opinions. But we stood there sometime in the Midburn Arvis Moy, where it was, or in Gilgal, we made a shua. You can't come along now and cancel that shua. That shua on Har Sinai we all said was, we'll drink wine for Kiddush, drink wine for Avdallah. How in the world can you come along now and become a Nazir? That's how Rashi learns it. Very important Rashi. So Rashi holds that Mahat Torah, not only do you have a mitzvah making Kiddush, you have a mitzvah drinking wine. The biggest Kiddush of Rashi, which no one holds, that you have a mitzvah Mahat Torah is drinking wine of Avdallah. No one says that. No one. The Shagizai has a big problem there, but no one says drinking wine of Avdallah. So some people actually want to say as a result of that, look at Rashi. And Rashi has a girsa top liner. We're going to look at the top line of Rashi because Rashi has a girsa in Al-Gemara of Psachim that we don't have. And Avdallah and Aleph. Rashi says, "Vari mujba v'oimen olav maharsin." It says Rashi. The Chsivit says, "Zocher is yom Shabbos likacha." You have to remember Shabbos in order to sanctify it. So he's quoting a brayso that kuv of the Psachim. Zochrei olayayin. Remember it on wine. Now, this gives of Rashi we don't have. In our gives in the Gemara it says, "Ein li ela b'yayim b'layla b'nayin." All we know is by day. Zocher is yom Shabbos likacha. I know at night. Well, the different versions there, but. All I know, beginning of Shabbos, b'yitziyasim how do we know Havdalah? Tamalaymer. So Rashi holds an amazing Rashi that to drink wine b'Havdalah, forget Chmar Medina, to drink Havdalah is a mitzvah in the Torah. Sorry? Yeah. No, Rashi's not going to say this. There's no one else says this. Maybe I think I even brings it up, but that's it. So therefore, Rashi, big Kiddush Rashi, you can see. There's like 5 shittas. Is there a mitzvah in the Torah to make Kiddush? If there's a mitzvah in the Torah to make Kiddush, is the mitzvah in the Torah to make Kiddush on bread or on wine, like the long text there? Is the mitzvah even on wine just to have it? Is the mitzvah to make Kiddush on wine and not make kafka on wine? So who said you have to drink? And then Rashi saying, yeah, true. I'm wine, yeah. So Rashi holds that making Kiddush on wine, but making Havdalah on wine is not Torah. And that is a lone opinion. Making Kiddush on wine, our other Shaykhs said as well. Okay, so that's Rashi. The Ram clearly holds that drinking wine, Kiddush and Havdalah is Rabbanan. It's only, and whether Havdalah is Torah, it's just the words. Let's continue the Gemara according to Rashi. Let's go back to the Gemara according to Rashi, then we'll go to Tosfos. So the Gemara is so the question. So Kedusha Avdalta is a question. How do you move by Hasina? You have to make Kedusha Avdalta Hasina. Elok Yehadam Rav, like Rav said, Shavua she'eshte v'chazva marei nazir. You know what the case is? One mean yayin mitzvah, a different case. You unilaterally decided you're going to drink wine. I made a shvua. I'm going to drink wine every Monday and Tuesday, and now you became a nazir. So the chiddush is that the mitzvah of Nazir overrides the shua of that you made a wine. That's what it is. That's what it means. Yayin mitzvah ki yayin shus. Taisus doesn't understand Rashi at all. Taisus, I don't understand. Just like you had a problem with kiddush, because kiddush is a mitzvah of the Torah. How can Nazir override it? So you have the same problem if you made a shua. If you made a shua to drink wine, the Torah says, well, yachol dvarei, right? Whatever you say, you have to do. So what are you coming along now and the same problem? So Taisa therefore completely argues with Rashi, as we'll see in a minute. The Meiri says a beautiful thing. The Meiri says that there's a big difference, and it looks like he looks like Rashi, or at least he's trying to defend Rashi. He's saying when your mushba v'oimed mahasina is much more powerful than you took it upon yourself. If you mushba v'oimed mahasina, you can't come along now and become a nazir and cancel the mitzvah that David gave us to drink wine for Kiddush and Havdalah. But where you are, you make a shua. True, mahator, you have to keep it. But then, since Nazir is an Iser Koil, Nazir wasn't specifically against Kiddush, against your Shvuah. Nazir was every part of it includes not going to to a cemetery. It includes hair, includes grapes, anything. It includes things that you didn't ask. And once the Nazir says Chal on those things, Iser Koil comes here. Iser Koil will push away your unilateral Shvuah, but it won't push away a mitzvah in the Torah. That's how the Meiri defends Rashi. Others want to defend Rashi, and they say that what Rashi is trying to say is Rav Shimon had two choices: either to learn like a Chachamim, and that is that you're nazir even if you only said one thing, or to come along and make this big chiddush that you're coming and quashing a mitzvah of the Torah. So if it's the mitzvah of the Torah making kiddush, and you have a choice that the pasuk yayin v'sheicher like the Chachamim teach you that even if you only highlight one thing, you become a nazir, or quashing a mitzvah of the Torah, you should have chosen like the Chachamim, because that's far easier to learn. But if you learn that I the one who took upon myself to make a shua, and then I took upon myself to make a nazir, okay, Rav Shimon, I can understand why he believes that's the chiddush in the Torah, that it comes to quash your shua that you originally made, and I don't have to learn Chachamim. Anyway, the kids are Taisus and almost all other Shayin Limshat. No, the other way around. Not the Gemara saying it's the other way. Pumfaket. You need the Torah to come along and tell me to cancel Kiddush and Havdalah. The chi, they changed the word instead of Hadei. The chi mujba v'omer masina, where is there a mitzvah to drink wine? What I need a pasuk to tell me you're allowed to drink the wine, that you're allowed to drink wine when there's no such mitzvah chal to drink wine, or tell me that nazir is chal on the side. You're not allowed to drink wine. Who said to drink wine? However, there is a Taisus in I think Chagig, if I remember correctly, a Taisus learns, even if it's a smachta, only with the Rabban, but the smachta is from a pasuk. Since a smachta is from a pasuk, we are uncomfortable. Talk about chalamoid, working chalamoid. We are uncomfortable in saying that the Torah is coming to cancel that, to cancel something that at least a smachta from the Torah. What's the logic in that? Because there's a big argument there is from the Rambam what exactly a smachta is. According to the Rambam, a smachta is purely for memory's sake. How do you remember all these dinners? We find the pasuk and we associate with that pasuk. In other words, it has no relevance really to that din. According to the Ritva, that if we have a smachta, that's exactly what the Torah wanted us to use that pasuk for. But the Torah didn't want it to be in the realm of a Torah. The Torah wanted to be in the realm of the Rabban, because of Rabban L'Kula, because of other sets of dinim. So therefore, if you learn that the pasuk actually means that this is the Rabbanan, that's what the pasuk is referring to, then to say there's another pasuk to tell you that cancel this pasuk, that's what Taisus is saying. It doesn't make sense. And therefore, even if you you learn that Kiddush and Havdalah is with the Rabbanan, so smachta, it still makes sense Rashi's pshat to say that the pasuk is coming along and saying, don't worry about the fact I told you to drink with the Rabbanan, at least wine. But if you learn that a smachta like the Rambam means nothing, and therefore there's no, why would you have a pasuk? I mean, I don't need a pasuk to tell me you're allowed. Of course you're allowed to. Okay, let's continue. Finish quickly. So I think about sorry, we're going a little bit too deep. I think about weiter. Rabbanan nami hamabayla. How can Rabban use the pasuk meyayin v'sheicha to teach you that even if you only highlight one thing, it's very another. They need it for the same reason as Rabbi Shimon, because everyone agrees to this concept. And you're right. Just say miyayin nazir. And I would ask, why would I say miyayin nazir? To teach you that wine of nazir quashes the yayin of mitzvah. My v'shecha. Why say miyayin v'shecha? Why do you have to say old wine, new wine? What's the relevance of that? To teach you the second part of it, to teach you that if all you mentioned was old wine, you're full-fledged nazir. But Shimon so was he talking about Shimon? Was he according to him? Was it say sheikha for? He holds that you're not a nazir unless you say everything. So why is it a sheikha? La lufi sheikha sheikha teach you a side did nothing to do with this, and that is it's an extra word. In order to make a gzera shava, ideally we want it to be mufna, at least mufna mitzadech. We want an extra word at least in one of the places. The word v'sheikha is totally extra, and you know what I need the word v'sheikha for? The old wine to teach you when we learn that a kohen should not enter the base of mikdash when they're drunk doesn't necessarily mean wine, or does it mean necessarily wine? So that's going to be machla. If you hold that sheikha is extra like Reb Shimon, then we're going to have a gzera shava sheikha. Tell you it means only wine. But if you hold not anything intoxicating, remember we had that milk. No. But you're going to dash in sheikha. I tell you what. And how much sheikha means beer also? How many times you learn sheikha means beer? So sheikha can mean old wine. Sheikha can mean beer. If you have an extra word sheikha by nazir, and by nazir we know for sure it means wine, and it's extra. Shimon says to teach you that when it comes to the kohen, what does it mean sheikha? It means necessarily wine, but you can drink as much mashka as you want and walk the base of mikdash afterwards. But if you don't have the gzera like a chachamim, because by them it's not extra, then it implies anybody under alcohol, any influence of alcohol. It's right here. You see, yayin b'sheichal taste. Ato v'inchon ma gabi nazir yayin hu the litzer only wine. Avashar mashkin you're allowed to drink any other alcohol drink. Afgam by migdash nami yayin hu litzer only wine is forbidden. Avashar mashkin mishtakin loy, but any other intoxicating alcohol is not a problem. This comes to the gate of Yehuda. Tanya Yehuda says. If you ate the right date from Kilis, from the town Kilis, it's very intoxicating. Or Shasad you drank honey from dates, I guess it's intoxicating. Or Chalav, direct milk without not being homogenized, pasteurized. The Nichnas, the Migdash, Chayiv, your Chayiv. So that's a machlekes there. The same machlekes would be here between Shimon. Okay,